Warm words from the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, can I begin by congratulating President-elect Trump on his historic election victory.
Then came the cold reality check from his new opponent about the difficulties of dealing with Donald Trump.
The Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary met him in September. Did the Foreign Secretary take that opportunity to apologise for making derogatory and scatological references, including, and I quote, "Trump is not only a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath, he is also a profound threat to the international order"?
The Foreign Secretary and I did meet President-elect Trump just a few weeks ago for dinner for about a couple of hours, and we discussed a number of issues of global significance.
Amid growing political tension, the leader of the British Labour Party, Keir Starmer, has found himself in the eye of the storm after being accused of interfering in the United States presidential elections. The controversy erupted after former President Donald Trump directly accused him of improperly supporting Kamala Harris's campaign, Joe Biden's running mate. According to sources close to the Republican Party, members of the Labour Party allegedly participated actively in the Democratic campaign, which, if confirmed, would represent a serious intrusion into another country's internal affairs. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us a lot. Let's begin. The trigger for this controversy appears to be linked to a group of volunteers affiliated with the Labour Party who, according to allegations made by the Republicans, worked on Harris's campaign in a coordinated effort from the United Kingdom. This has sparked criticism both in the political sphere and among British citizens, who question Starmer's prudence in allowing his party to be associated with such a sensitive issue. From the outset, Trump wasted no time labeling the situation as an act of unprecedented interference, claiming that these actions compromise the integrity of the US electoral process. For its part, the Labour Party, led by Starmer, has denied any official involvement, arguing that the members in question acted individually and without formal party representation. However, the narrative surrounding this scandal has quickly escalated, reaching diplomatic levels and raising concerns about relations between the United Kingdom and the United States in an already complex context. The complaint filed by Donald Trump on behalf of the Republican Party directly accuses the British Labour Party of crossing a diplomatic line by involving itself in US politics. According to documents released by Trump's campaign, nearly 100 Labour affiliates reportedly provided strategic and logistical support to Kamala Harris's candidacy. Trump called this action an unacceptable intrusion and demanded an immediate investigation by both US and British authorities. Trump's central argument is that the integrity of the US presidential elections is compromised when foreign actors, even indirectly, interfere in electoral campaigns. To bolster his position, he argued that any external support, whether financial or operational, can influence public perception and the legitimacy of the results. In his most recent statements, Trump declared, "This is not mere voluntary assistance. It is an attack on our electoral sovereignty." Legally, the complaint emphasizes the risks associated with this alleged collaboration. Although no evidence has been presented that Labor-funded activities on US soil, the mere presence of its affiliates in the electoral process is causing significant tensions. This situation raises questions about the ethical and legal boundaries of international participation in political campaigns, opening a debate on the scope of partisan alliances in a globalized world. In response to Trump's accusations, Keir Starmer quickly denied any formal involvement by the Labour Party. In an official statement, Starmer stressed that his organization does not have any policy supporting or promoting participation in foreign campaigns. Any actions taken by members of our party were done in a personal capacity and do not represent the Labour Party as an institution, he stated. Sophia Patel, Labour's chief of operations, also defended her leader's position. Patel argued that individual actions by affiliates do not necessarily reflect the party's priorities. However, this explanation has been met with skepticism, especially among critics who believe Labour should have been more explicit in prohibiting such activities. Starmer avoided direct confrontations with Trump but criticized the former president's inflammatory language, arguing it could exacerbate diplomatic tensions between the two countries. In this regard, the Labour leader has sought to distance his party from any narrative portraying it as a destabilizing actor in US politics. Despite these statements, the political and media pressure on Starmer continues to mount, testing his leadership and management skills during a critical moment. The scandal has ignited a heated debate in the UK, with opinions divided over the behavior of Labour affiliates and Starmer's response. While some sectors defend the autonomy of party members to engage in international activities of their choosing, others argue that the Labour leader should have taken stricter measures to prevent such situations. The political opposition, led by conservative figures, has not missed the opportunity to criticize Starmer, accusing him of jeopardizing the UK-US relationship. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak described the incident as a misjudgment that could have unnecessary repercussions for our diplomacy. Similarly, voices from independent sectors have questioned Labour's prudence in such a sensitive international context. Meanwhile, public opinion has been divided on social media and in public forums. While some users argue that Trump's accusations are exaggerated and aim to distract from his campaign's internal issues, others believe that any form of interference, direct or indirect, is unacceptable. This division in public opinion reflects the complexity of the case and how it impacts both domestic politics and the international perception of the Labour Party. Beyond the accusations and denials, the case has raised concerns about the potential consequences for UK-US diplomatic relations. Historically, both countries have maintained a strategic alliance that transcends individual administrations. However, this controversy threatens to strain ties, especially at a time when bilateral cooperation is crucial for addressing global challenges such as climate change, international security, and economic stability. Political analysts have warned that the incident could be used by US figures as an example of why international relations should remain strictly professional and nonpartisan. In this sense, there is concern that any perception of favoritism towards the Democrats by Labour could foster distrust between the two nations' administrations in the future. On the other hand, Joe Biden's administration has maintained a low profile on the matter, possibly to avoid fueling the conflict. Nevertheless, Washington's silence has also been interpreted by some as a sign of discomfort. As the date of the US presidential elections approaches, the case could become a point of contention for both Republicans and Democrats, with unpredictable consequences for British diplomacy. The controversy has also prompted interventions from influential British political figures such as Nigel Farage, known for his Eurosceptic stance and ideological alignment with Donald Trump. Farage, a frequent critic of Labour, sees the opportunity to question Keir Starmer's leadership and the party's role in what he described as blatant interference in US internal affairs. In recent interviews, Farage claimed that the incident highlights a severe lack of judgment by Starmer in failing to control his party members. He also argued that such actions could undermine the UK's credibility on the international stage. If we cannot remain neutral in the elections of our closest allies, how can we expect others to respect our political decisions? Farage stated during an appearance on a national television program. Additionally, Farage suggested that the actions of Labour affiliates might have a strategic motive to strengthen ties with the Democrats in the event of a Kamala Harris victory. Although he provided no evidence to support this claim, his comments have added an element of speculation and tension to the debate. At the same time, his intervention has drawn criticism from progressive sectors, who accuse him of using the case to advance a personal agenda and increase his political relevance.
So the Prime Minister tonight reacting to what has happened over the course of the last 48 hours. His conclusion, very simple, it's all the far right, as if they're causing all of the problems. No, the far right are a reaction to fear, to discomfort, to unease that is out there shared by tens of millions of people. Let me be clear. I don't support street violence. I don't support thuggery in any way at all. But I'm worried, not just about the events in Southport, but about societal decline that is happening in our country. Law and order, folks, on our streets is breaking down. This Prime Minister hasn't got an earthly clue how to deal with it. We need to start getting tough. We need to use stop and search, regardless of the colour of the skin of anyone that gets stopped. We need tougher prison sentences for anybody carrying a knife. We need folks to get real. Because I tell you what, what you've seen on the streets of Hartlepool, of London, of Southport is nothing to what could happen over the course of the next few weeks. Let's have proper law and order. But Mr. Starmer, just to blame a few far-right thugs to say that's the root of our problems doesn't work.
Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us a lot. Let's continue. Amid growing public scrutiny, Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister and prominent figure in the Labour Party, was compelled to address Parliament. During a heated session in the House of Commons, Rayner vigorously defended her party, arguing that there is no evidence to suggest the Labour leadership had prior knowledge of its members' involvement in Kamala Harris's campaign. Rayner dismissed Trump's accusations as a political distraction and emphasized that the Labour Party's efforts are focused solely on addressing the needs of the British people. While the Conservatives and their international allies concentrate on fabricating scandals, we continue working to solve real issues for our citizens, she declared during her address.
Will the Deputy Prime Minister join me in applauding the brave Labour staff members who've travelled across the Atlantic to campaign against Donald Trump?
Mr. Speaker, I'm loving this loving. I don't often get it. What I say to the honourable gentleman is that people in their own time often go and campaign, and that's what we've seen. It happens in all political parties. People go and campaign.
However, her stance did little to appease the opposition, which accused her of downplaying the seriousness of the matter. Some Conservative MPs even called for an internal investigation to determine whether implicit directives had come from the Labour leadership. This parliamentary exchange has highlighted the deep divisions within British politics and the mounting pressure on Rayner and Starmer to demonstrate transparency and accountability. Across the Atlantic, the controversy has also impacted Kamala Harris's campaign as she faces a tough electoral battle against Donald Trump. Although the Democratic campaign has yet to issue an official statement, internal sources indicate that Harris's team is assessing the situation to minimize any potential damage. The presence of Labour members in the campaign could be interpreted in different ways. For some, it represents international solidarity and progressive cooperation. However, for others, it raises concerns about the perception of impartiality and the legitimacy of the election process. Political analysts have noted that this kind of support could be leveraged by Republicans to argue that Democrats are receiving external backing, a narrative that may resonate with nationalist-leaning voters. Meanwhile, the Democrats are also grappling with the challenge of managing the situation without alienating their international allies. Although Kamala Harris cannot control the actions of British volunteers, any indication of complicity could be used against her in debates and media coverage. This incident underscores how modern campaigns operate in a globalized environment where local actions can have unforeseen international repercussions. One of the most critical aspects of this controversy is its timing, given its proximity to the US presidential election, which amplifies its political and media impact. With less than 2 weeks until the polls, every move by the candidates and their allies is under intense scrutiny, and even minor controversies can influence voter perceptions. The dispatch of Labour volunteers to the United States occurred at an especially sensitive moment, as polls indicate a tight race between Harris and Trump. This has led many to question whether the involvement of Labour affiliates was a strategically planned decision to maximize its impact or simply an unfortunate coincidence. Moreover, the limited time before the election complicates efforts to fully clarify the facts and diffuse the controversy. Both the Labour Party and Kamala Harris's campaign face the challenge of managing the fallout swiftly and effectively, while Republicans seize every opportunity to keep the issue in the public eye. This temporal element highlights the volatility of today's political landscape and how a single incident can alter the narrative within days. The incident has placed Labour leader Keir Starmer in an uncomfortable position both within and outside his party. Although Starmer has attempted to distance himself from the allegations, asserting that the actions of Labour members do not reflect the party's official stance, criticism from the opposition and some internal factions is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Some Labour MPs, particularly those from more moderate wings, have voiced concerns about the scandal's potential impact on the upcoming general election in the UK. They fear that the controversy could damage the party's image, making it appear unable to separate national priorities from international interests. This sentiment has also fueled rumors of internal tensions, with calls for stronger and more strategic leadership. Externally, critics, including the Conservatives, have seized on the case to attack Starmer's leadership, labeling him weak and out of touch with diplomatic realities. Additionally, this scandal could provide ammunition to the UK's more nationalist sectors, who are wary of any involvement in international international affairs that does not directly benefit the country. However, some political analysts argue that if Starmer manages the situation with transparency and decisiveness, he could emerge stronger. A clear and firm response could be seen as an example of leadership in a crisis, helping him solidify his position within the party and with the electorate. This incident not only calls into question the relationship between the UK and the US, but also exposes the complexities of modern politics, where individual actions can have international repercussions. As investigations continue and tensions rise, the Labour Party's ability to manage this controversy will be crucial, not only for its reputation, but also for the stability of diplomatic relations with its closest ally. The immediate challenge for the Labour Party is to ensure this incident does not become a long-term obstacle to its political leadership. This may involve establishing clearer internal policies regarding members' participation in international activities, especially in sensitive contexts like another country's election. It will also be essential for Keir Starmer to adopt a more proactive approach to communication, ensuring the British public understands that the party prioritizes national interests above all else. As for UK-US relations, it remains to be seen whether this controversy will have lasting effects. While it is unlikely to seriously harm the historic alliance between the two nations, it could serve as a precedent in future debates about the limits of international influence and the need to maintain neutrality in foreign electoral processes. Ultimately, this case serves as a reminder of how, in an increasingly interconnected world, local actions can have global implications, and how political leaders must be prepared to respond to these situations with speed, transparency, and responsibility. If you like this video and want to see more content on important issues, subscribe to the channel and give it a like. Your support helps us continue creating content. Thanks for being with us, and don't forget to share this video. See you next time.